Indeed, there it is. And welcome everybody to episode. Which one is this? Annunziata? Is this
Four.
four? This is four, right? Episode
Yeah.
four of Two Right
Damn right.
with Barrister Stephen Barrett and Politico in the no on the telly-o all the bloody time-o Annunziata Rees-Mogg, who is looking incredibly glamorous this evening, whereas I look like I've got greasy hair. That's not fair. We're filming this the same day that I did Mike Graham's show in the morning. If you go and watch that show, I've got clean hair. I've just spent the entire day running my hand through my hair, and now it looks like I didn't wash. But I'm the greasy oik, and this is the glamorous Annunziata.
I am very late in middle life, learning how to do makeup thanks to wonderful people in TV studios. And Justine in particular needs a particular shout out for being a complete genius.
Yeah, we do need to mention that behind the scenes, though, it's not half as glamorous as people think. I mean, the great disappointment to me was green rooms. They're just not.
Yeah,
It's
they're
not very
appalling.
impressive. It's just a room with a chair. It's
Yeah,
this is not very
if
impressive.
you're really lucky, there's a sink.
Yeah,
But
or at GB News, there's a tap that I can't work. So it's like,
no one can work that tap. It's the worst tap.
it's mad. It's absolutely mad. But the point of this conversation is to give you a breakdown on what's happening in the world this week from an entirely right-wing perspective. I am just a £25 paid-up member of Reform. I'm not a spokesman for them. I don't speak for them. Annunziata does not speak for the Conservative Party, but we are both right-wingers, unashamedly right-wingers. We don't think there's anything wrong in that because we actually think we're quite nice. We like cake and puppies. Are you pro-puppy or anti-puppy, Annunziata?
I'm very pro puppy. Our dog had puppies last year. Very
Oh,
pro puppy.
yes. Oh, no, I remember the
They do
pictures.
chew a lot. Yeah. We kept two, and we have lost a few shoes and a couple of skirting boards since then. But I'm still very pro puppy.
Yes.
But also that I think we both genuinely believe that people's lives would be better, that people would be happier and more prosperous and freer under right-wing policies. That we're not right-wing because we hate people, we're right-wing because we love and trust the British people.
And I think it will come to a fore because I think that there are certain people who are being categorized as right-wing now who are not right-wing. They're being categorized as right-wing purely because they're nationalists. Now, look, I'm not going to deny that most right-wingers love their country and are patriots, but nationalism is not the defining characteristic of being right-wing. The defining characteristic of being right-wing is wanting less state, less
Not a
government.
mistake.
Yeah, more of the money you earn in your pocket. That's it.
Exactly.
Small businesses allowed to succeed, bureaucrats boiling their heads and going away, intellectuals and academics, frankly, do look at useful stuff. Like, to her credit, Mary Beard is actually creating interesting stuff in academia. Don't create loads of sociologist nonsense and tell us how to live our lives, or that boys can be girls, or just, they can exist. But yeah.
Economic side, assume that the economy is run by robots because actually it's run by human beings who make human decisions. And it's not a mathematical formula. It's all about people.
Yeah, and I think for me, certainly the right wing is fundamentally economic, and then it leans towards liberty. And how far you go towards that is, some people call me a dangerous libertarian, and then I've got mates who are like, they're full on free speechers, and they're like, oh, you're so restrictive. And it's like, well, it's a pendulum, where you put it, but we lean towards liberty. We're not going to lean towards telling people what to do. That's not inherently right wing.
That's we want the state to be small. We want the state to be out of people's lives. We want people to have the independence to run their own lives and, to be honest, to make their own mistakes, not have everything wrapped in cotton wool and everything down to the government. That humans have to be human, and they can't be successful, they can't be happy, they can't live fulfilling lives unless they are.
Yeah. And I think that's for us, that's what the right wing means. It's not... It hurts, I think, genuine right-wing people when we're characterized as mean because we don't really know how to respond, because we can't react meanly to that because firstly, that's just not on, but also it would prove them right. So it's a very difficult sort of cleft stick the right-wingers end up in. And I just want to this is one of the rare occasions that Annunziata and I have prepared or at least discussed the topic beforehand. Most of the time we are just raw reaction. But this is far too important. And we wanted to start with the topic of Siobhan White, who lost her daughter, Rhiannon White, to an illegal migrant who just committed an atrocity upon the innocent Rhiannon White. And we just wanted to discuss that, to highlight that. I think it's one of the reasons Keir Starmer should resign. And when I now say one of the reasons, I literally think that there are so many reasons why Keir Starmer needs to go that we're at the end, we're at our wits' end. Boris Johnson was made to resign over cake. And then if you say that, like the most dire supporters of the left will say it was because Chris Pincher allegedly pinched someone's bum in an allegation that was withdrawn by the person alleging it. And it's like, this is still pathetic. This is still pathetic. It was an allegation that was withdrawn by the person who made it by a grown up. I mean, frankly, I've reached the point where it would be quite nice if somebody wanted to pinch my bottom. I mean, that really doesn't happen. But, this is a very serious thing. And I think I wanted to say, and I'll hand over to you very quickly, Annunziata, but I wanted to say that I was deeply, deeply moved. Siobhan had a press conference with Nigel Farage. That's not to gain any credit for Nigel. He supported her and gave a voice to her. I think she also was on Mike Graham's show this morning, and I praise everybody who gives her a platform. I'm sure to credit your leader. I'm sure Kemi would give her a platform, and so this is not party political at all. But she needs more platforms to say that she's not accepting what happened to her daughter, and that she has a little grandson who now has no mother, and she is of course the mother to Rhiannon's sisters, and that this is an absolute tragedy that never had to happen. Never had to happen. They just to fill viewers
absolutely.
in. You go.
Yeah, tiny bit of background. Rhiannon White worked in an asylum hotel, and she was followed home, walking to the train station, at which point this illegal migrant attacked her unbelievably viciously. He then, having stabbed her multiple times, wandered off to a local shop to buy, I believe, beer with his government-funded card, as though he didn't have a care in the world.
Taxpayer funded.
Taxpayer funded, absolutely. Paid
Our
for
money.
by us. And it was actually that helped pin down the prosecution. It was barbaric, it was horrific, and a 27-year-old mother lost her life. An unforgivable failure of government policy, allowing people, we don't know who they are, to cross into our country and then house them in completely unrestricted ways so that they are able to undertake such heinous crimes.
It is absolutely disgusting. I think history will look back on us as insane. This is just insane. Because history, and I like to point this out, we're not racist. This is just normal. A dangerous man is a dangerous man, and he can have blonde hair, or he can have black hair, or he can have any shade of skin there is. A dangerous person is a dangerous person. And yes, I will accept that women can be dangerous too, but mostly men are dangerous, and importing tens of thousands of potentially dangerous men is just not forgivable. And for Keir Starmer in particular to have promised to smash the gangs, and then for this to be a boat migrant on his watch, I just think this is an absolute reason for him to go. And Siobhan White, Ms. White or Mrs. White, I don't know which she prefers, but I'd rather give her a title. To be honest, I'd rather show her some respect. She quite rightly is not sitting down and shutting up over this. This is outrageous.
She's absolutely right not to. It's a complete betrayal and failure by the government, and those at the top are ultimately responsible. But even worse than that, she has asked to meet Keir Starmer, and he hasn't agreed to a meeting.
Yeah.
What kind of man would say no to meeting the mother of a murdered girl, the grandmother of a orphaned, an unmothered child, uh, who has died specifically because of government failings. That's no man. Keir Starmer should be completely ashamed of himself.
Yes, I think he is no man. I got the honor of speaking a couple of times with the relative of one of the victims of Southport who survived, but she was a stabbed little girl, and he just kept returning to this idea that Starmer had come up for 19 seconds and laid a plastic wreath and then gone back to what we now know was a party with Z-listers. I mean, honestly, Annunziata, it's like people like us. That was what he was desperate to get back to. And it just, if it was a party with you and me, I think we would have go back to Southport, hug them, and show them some care. You vacuous thing of a man.
And he has to take some responsibility for the riots that followed that. That it was on his watch that no details, or very bizarre details, about the murderer were released. That we heard
Welsh
he was a
choir boy.
Welsh choir boy, which turned out, I mean, perhaps he sang in a choir for a bit, but not by any real understanding of Welsh choir boy was he a Welsh choir boy. He was a maniac. He was clearly a recognized threat for quite some time. Um, the covering up of that and the ensuing violence for people trying to understand what had gone wrong, why innocent girls had lost their lives, I think again lands on Keir Starmer's door. And as you say, going for a matter of seconds, I mean, it's just disgusting.
It is
It's an
disgusting.
insult.
It's complete contempt for your fellow man. It's just it's beyond my ability to empathize with. I've had a leak a few months ago from a somebody who was once employed by the Home Office, so I have a detailed breakdown of quite how the processing works. So with Rhiannon White's murderer, you've got a whole series of failures there. You've got the people who immediately process them off the boats, then they are shipped to a facility. I won't name it, but I do know where it is. They're the people at that facility who are supposed to check these people, who are supposed to determine if they're a risk. That's a complete bloody failure. Then he was shipped to the hotel that Rhiannon worked at, and that's a whole process that is absolute failure. And then whoever let him out the building. Where was the state? It tells us its mother, it tells us its father, it tells us it's going to keep us happy and warm and discount our energy bills and all sorts of ridiculous lies it currently tells us. This is why we're right wing, because we just don't believe it. That's the fundamental thing, because it does stuff like this. Where are the prosecutions
I
of
mean,
any of those people?
it tells us it's the state's responsibility to keep teenagers entertained so that they don't go rioting. It tells us that it's the state's responsibility to potty train children at school. It tells us it's the state's responsibility to teach children how to brush their teeth. And
Toothbrushing really gets me, Annunziata, because
toothbrushing really gets me. But at the same time, it doesn't do the biggest safety measure there possibly is, which is keeping criminals out of our way.
and
By
it's no
keeping
different
us
from
safe.
Nottingham. I don't know if listeners and viewers know about the Nottingham inquiry that's going on, but there was a lunatic migrant in Nottingham who murdered three innocent people. And again, they knew he was a lunatic. They knew he had serious mental health issues, and they let him out because they were worried that they'd be called racist.
Indeed. And it, it was part of their quotas that he couldn't be that mad because they were over quota for his particular ethnicity. That's completely mad and irresponsible. But it isn't just people of different ethnic minorities. Different ethnicities to us. That there's a case today, it's in court at the moment, about, and we I think may touch on this in more detail, but about an absolutely vile man in his 60s who is white, who groomed four young girls from the age of 7, at least one of them, raped them, pimped them out to other people, including his son, One of his other sons is taking the stand against him, having refused the offer of a deeply underage young girl. Um, Credit on him. But that son went to the police. These offences took place between 2002 and 2010. The son who did not take part went to the police in 2006 and no action was taken. You've got to ask, why not? If a son is going to the police and saying my father is raping underage children, don't the police have a duty of care to investigate?
Well, isn't
To
that a bloody
go
alarm
to
bell?
a pretty blinking big one. Um, Social services. I mean, the whole system should have been alerted at that point, not waited another 4 years for the abuse to continue.
No. And this is the for me the great lie of socialism. And I wouldn't include all the left in socialism because a lot of the people I like on the left are just interested in improving the lives of working class people. That doesn't necessarily make them socialists. But socialists are like the state will just do it all. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to look out. We don't have to. The state, it just all happens. And then when it obviously doesn't happen, they just lie to protect the state. Um, I mean, the rise of paedophilia has been this is taking a very dark turn, but I think we owe it to Siobhan and Rhiannon White and that little quite rightly unnamed boy, um, and her sisters and everybody else of their friends and family who's affected, to say that something is dark in our society, that paedophilia seems rife. And I mean, I will go absolutely put my hand up. My profession is failing. The judges are failing. Now, I would defend them to a degree in that I would say that they are constrained by what are called sentencing guidelines that they don't set, that are set for them. Keir Starmer sat on the panel that makes sentencing guidelines for a very number of years. Obviously, we can't prove anything about Keir Starmer, but it is fair to say he sat on that panel as a very senior voice for a very long number of years.
Don't worry, Stephen. We absolutely know that if it was in any way controversial, it won't have crossed Keir Starmer's desk.
No.
Keir Starmer's amazing desk, where nothing ever crosses it. Unlike the British Channel, nothing gets across.
But
He
I
just
still.
doesn't take responsibility. But the Sentencing Council is a constitutional failure of our politicians.
Oh yeah,
They should
yeah, and it needs
not.
to go. It has to go,
It
Annunziata.
needs to go. It absolutely needs to go.
But the
Our
other thing
politicians
is that
should
because
be
I do
taking
feel,
responsibility.
but I do feel a bit of like if I were in private with some of these judges in criminal law, I would be saying to them, okay, the sentencing guidelines tell you this. This is outrageous. This is the rape of children. This is paedophilia. The best way for you to protest is for you to give him a 20-year sentence, and then the Court of Appeal has to go, oh, you made a mistake on that the sentence. That brings it to the surface.
Yeah.
I think they should. I think the judges I knew when I was in my early 20s, I think they would have done that. And I think that there is a to the I'm often, and I will be the last defender of the judges because I can see how things are going to go, but I will defend them come the end. But right now, I will point out that they are lacking a spine. They need some actual spine, some bottom, some ability to just go, okay, Court of Appeal, you overturn me, and then it'll all be on you. It'll all come out, in the Sun and the Daily Star and all the actually, frankly, the Sunday Sport is turning out to be one of our better newspapers. I live in complete chaos, Annunziata. The Financial Times has gone mad. The Times is trying to convince us London is safe. The Guardian is still the Guardian, so it's not worth reading. But, some of our best newspapers are like the Express and the Sunday Sport. I never thought
Yeah.
I'd see this. But we do need a bit of bottom, and I will criticize those judges in this way. I don't think I'm being rude to them. I don't think I'm certainly not putting them in any danger. They can grow a spine. They should be more like Mr. Justice Goose if they want to be. But if I were a judge and they asked me to pass sentence on a paedophile, I'd send them down for 20 years, whatever the sentencing guidelines said. And if the Court of Appeal then overturned me, I'd just go, well, look, the Court of Appeal did that. Who do you think was right, general public?
And I think what the general public feel is just is important. That sentences have to be seen to be commensurate with the crime. And I think in a lot of these cases, we're not. And if we think of Lucy Connolly, we've already touched on the Southport riots. I will not defend what she said. She was clearly uh, inciting violence. It was a very
Oh, I get a bit
bad.
grumbly because I just because because I'm a chancery lawyer and we are very
However, I
pernickety
don't.
over words, and she said for all I care. And I get very grumpy. And if the criminal lawyers want to tell me, oh, that's enough to satisfy our test, I'll just go, I think you're really bad lawyers.
Yeah. Well, for
Because
all
there's a
I
hierarchy
know,
of lawyers in Annunziata, and I hold them lower than me.
her
Clear.
sentiments were unpleasant,
Yeah, oh,
undoubtedly.
definitely.
But I
Unpleasant's lawful.
do not see why she gets a prison sentence that is longer than any of these horrible shoplifters who are not even being investigated. Why she gets longer sentences than people who cause actual damage to our society. Her words in the end had no effect at all on our
No,
society. And
none.
she goes behind bars, and then we see people who have done awful crimes either getting off scot-free or with virtually no time at all. And if justice isn't seen to be just, isn't seen to be fair, it doesn't work.
It doesn't exist. It
Doesn't
dies.
exist. Doesn't exist.
And the
Yeah.
psalm says, justice, justice, justice shall you pursue. And that's the great. So that's, and just to explain to those who might not know, the Psalms are part of the oldest part of the Bible. They come directly from Judaism. They're incorporated into Christianity, and they're part of Christianity and part of Judaism. And they're some of our oldest wisdoms. And I often turn personally to the Psalms. One of my favorite parts of the Psalms is every man shall sit under his own vine and fig tree, meaning that every man will be able to feed himself and his family because he's got grapes and he's got figs.
I'm
And
not
no
sure
man
how
shall make him
healthy we'd
afraid.
be.
What?
I quite. How healthy would we be if we lived on
Oh well,
wine and
that's not the
figs?
point of it. The point is, we would all be free. And sorry,
Yeah,
every man shall sit under his own vine and fig tree, and no man shall make him afraid. That
yeah, no.
that's I'm fed up of being afraid. I'm fed up of being a grown up who is made to feel afraid, who's made to feel as though I haven't filled in the account details correctly, who your password is in error. Your password is not long enough. Your password deserves an extra character. Just go away.
Long before you get anywhere near trying to fill in a tax return and spending every single second thinking you must be accidentally criminalizing yourself because they make it as complicated as possible. The government's very good at making us all feel perpetually worried that if I don't know if you drive, Stephen, but
No, I
I
can't.
drive to London.
You drive
Oh,
to London. You're so
I
brave.
yeah, virtually every week. And I have about an hour driving across London. And I spent the entire time thinking, have I transgressed something that I don't really know exists? Have I done 21 miles an hour? Have I, because the yet white lines on the road are now so confusing, accidentally gone 3 inches into a bicycle lane? And the level of stress it causes when you're not actually doing anything wrong is ridiculous. But people are doing immense wrongs in our society without any penalty at all. That we've got all these yellow boxes for drivers again, that are raking in millions for the local councils. So are bus lanes. And yet, go and pilfer a couple of £100 worth of goods from Sainsbury's. No one's going to bat an eyelid.
Well, this is so. I think that this is the point that laws on their own do not make a good society. Okay, you just can't have loads of laws and expect to get good outcomes. You get a good outcome by people being good, and most people are good, and most people are made better when laws are simpler. Because if they know what the
Yeah.
law is, they're going to comply with it. They're not going to breach it. And the classic example, which I probably used, I mean, I just use this one all the time, but it's if you say it's Annunziata's birthday party. You're invited on the blah 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 at this date and this time. And you say dress code lounge suits. That's really easy for men. Every man is going to turn up in a lounge suit. You know, if you say black tie, certainly with your friends, everyone's going to turn up in black tie. And you know that it's easy for men. You say smart casual and you're just hurting men. That is most men, particularly a shout out to the heterosexual men. You know, they just why they don't need that nonsense in their life. They just don't need that. That's just what the hell does smart casual mean? And we need simpler
I don't think
laws.
women know.
Oh, I think women know
But
everything.
they've got to be. Women don't have a clue what smart casual means, or at least this woman doesn't. I always phone up the hostess if it says that and ask, "Do you mean skirts, dresses, or smart trousers? Or do you mean jeans?" I, I have no actual idea what smart casual means, and smart casual at midday means something very, very different to smart casual for dinner. It's just meaningless. Um, but we need laws not only we understand, but we respect.
Yeah.
We've got to understand why they exist. And if we don't understand why they exist and why they're needed or who they're protecting, then we don't really think they're fair. And as soon as you get the law abiding thinking some laws aren't fair, it leads, I think, to a creep of lawlessness.
It does. It does. It's broken window theory, and I agree. I still think this island is very special, and I go back to what Lord Mansfield said in the 17th century when he said that there could be no slaves here. He just said the law of England is too pure. It's just too pure. And I do think, and when because we're facing the rise of ethno nationalists, and I think both of us would stand in opposition to ethno nationalists, and
Yeah.
deny that they're not right wingers. They are something else. But the air of this island is too pure, and it's causing people to go, hang on a second, how does Lucy Connolly get 31 months and a paedophile walk free? Like, and one paedophile who sexually assaulted a 12-year-old girl walked out of court that day. Now, it doesn't take rocket science. It just takes common sense. And maybe that's what's in the air of this island. Maybe that's what makes us special. It's not skin color or hair color or eye color or shoe color or anything else. It's just being part of this island where we go, hang on a second, that smells wrong. It just smells
Yeah.
wrong. And you know,
Yeah.
and I think this is where culture comes into it much more. And I do think the British will save ourselves because we will turn to saying everything that's going on is wrong. Very sadly, we're going to have to say that a lot right now because everything that's going on right now is absolutely wrong, which is particular in these paedophiles not getting sentences. But let's lighten the mood slightly, Annunziata, and let's move on to our Walter Mitty Prime Minister, who, I mean, I said, I don't know if you've seen my Twitter today, but I've been absolutely having a whale of a time making jokes at the Prime Minister's expense because he, at terrible expense to us, not him, he flew himself over to just near enough Iran to pretend to be brave, but far enough away from Iran to not actually be in any danger. It's very fun. This is not Churchill going to Yalta. You know, this is a manufactured little tiny little man, probably in more makeup than you at the moment. But he's just a joke. He's a pathetic joke. He denounced the war, pretended it was illegal, then he pretended it wasn't. I mean, it was never illegal, just to be clear. I want people to have some certainty. So he pretended it was illegal, then he admitted it wasn't. Let's say that. And now he's trying to claim that he wasn't involved in it, but he's somehow it's his win. What is that about?
Yeah. He lives in some weird parallel world where people believe him. I think that is his fundamental problem. He seems to think that he gets away with these completely transparent lies where black is black 1 minute, white the next minute, and bright purple on the third. And we're all meant to go, oh, yes, of course it is. Absolutely. Aren't you clever, Keir Starmer? And in fact, we all laugh at him or just give up hope of having a leader that's worthy of the title Prime Minister.
Well, it's been a long time since we did, but this guy is the worst we've had. Left, right, Labour, There are, I mean, do you remember Ming Campbell? Be
I
perfectly happy with him as a Lib Dem Prime Minister in whatever world or universe that happened. Decent,
I-
honourable
but
man.
but Ming Campbell's been replaced by Ed Davey.
I
I mean,
know.
it doesn't get better, does it?
It doesn't. It
And
doesn't
Ming
seem to
Campbell
get
had a
better.
seriousness about them.
It doesn't seem to get better.
Um,
It is a serious problem. But this man, this because it's in Even and War. It's this lovely quote. It's about the American Max that the eldest daughter marries and then ends up divorcing, which because Even and War's heavily Catholic like you, that's like a big scandal part of the book.
mm,
But he's described this way. He's described he's not a real man. He's just a small part of a man that was artificially grown in a lab. And I just think that describes
yeah.
Keir Starmer perfectly. I don't think he is a real man.
I I can't begin to fathom him. I think there was a poll out this week on the popularity rating of the various different party leaders, and Kemi came top and on -9. We then had Zach Polanski and Nigel Farage on -16. I can't remember off the top of my head where Ed Davey came. And you then get to Keir Starmer on -42. Well, I think the 42 is the answer to everything, isn't it? But he clearly doesn't have the trust of the British people, and he doesn't deserve it. That we've seen, I think it's now 17 U-turns, is 18 U-turns. Um, he has gone back on manifesto pledges. He is trying to pretend we're both not in a war and winning it. That he talks absolute tosh permanently, and so
Yeah,
do his ministers. I couldn't help but notice that today is 4 weeks since the Mandelson files were the first tranche of the Mandelson files were released 4 weeks ago today on the 11th of March.
heavily
We're recording on
redacted,
Wednesday
obviously
night.
bent. Yeah,
Heavily redacted, raising huge questions. Why was he given a payoff? What silence was he being asked to keep? There was a worry he had to be paid off because of the threat of reputational damage. Well, that's a payment for your silence, in my view.
that that
Of
that
course,
that
all the stuff.
requires. Let's not get ourselves sued in defamation, but let's just flag that requires future criminal investigation, and that's all we have to
I,
say.
I think it should.
Yes, and make it very
Then we've
clear,
got all the.
Annunziata, it's your personal opinion based upon the evidence we
It
just
is.
discussed. It's my personal opinion too, based upon the evidence we just discussed. And if anybody thinks about suing us, that's what Section 3 of the Act will deal with. So we're fine. But it does warrant or would
This
justify,
is why I
in our
like doing a
personal opinion, future criminal investigation.
This is why I like doing a podcast with you, Stephen. You can keep me safe because this absolutely winds me up. We also had all the Morgan McSweeney stolen, not stolen, stolen phone
It was definitely
stuff.
stolen, not stolen.
Stolen, not stolen. And that might be my new go-to phrase. But uh, it was a small percentage of the files that are meant to be released. And Darren Jones, who seems to have been quietly sidelined from
Yeah, I mean let's talk about
yeah.
poor old Darren Jones. Just because
Um,
he's an incompetent clown, he has apparently been removed from government. That is really unfair,
he
given
did
that
it to
they're
the rest
all
of them.
incompetent
Yeah,
clowns. That's just
exactly.
like, why are you picking on Darren?
But 4 weeks ago, he hadn't been sidelined, and he said that in the coming weeks, quote, in the coming weeks, we would have the rest of the files. And I'm on 4 weeks today, and we've heard absolutely nothing. I have no doubt the big, thick black pens are out in force, redacting, redacting, redacting until, like, some of the Epstein files that came out, it says, "Dear Peter, yours, Keir."
Yeah.
I have very little belief in them being completely transparent. They keep trying to use this argument, even to Parliament, and they don't have the right to do that, that it's a police investigation and therefore things can't be released. That I don't understand. Seeing the police investigation is into Keir Starmer back in the Tony Blair and Gordon Brown era, and the files being released are about his appointment as ambassador.
Oh,
I
Annunziata, you and your logic and reasons.
mean, it's 15 years later.
Yes, I mean
He,
there are technical terms Rod could use, but the entire thing is stinks to high heaven. It's complete nonsense. We're just lied to. But this is so for me, because we began this quite rightly focusing on things that actually matter, which is Siobhan White. When he finally goes, and he will go, I will I will want him to have gone over that. He won't go over that, but that's what I will have wanted him to have gone over. But he obviously needs to go over Mandelson. This is absolutely pathetic. Ach nee, I lost my phone. Is just one of the many layers of patheticness about this. They all knew everybody knew who Mandelson was. This idea is it's
knew
absolutely
who Mandelson
absurd.
was. Mandelson had been fired 3 times for being dodgy. I mean, God's sake. I mean, any reader of any newspaper knew who Mandelson was. He was front page. It's just ridiculous trying to pretend that they didn't have a clue. And it's already been shown in the first tranche, which is the smallest, that Keir Starmer has you will have to make sure I don't
I will.
transgress our rules, our laws, but misled Parliament by saying
No,
Peter
that's fine.
Mandelson
That's fine. He definitely did
miss
that.
Peter Mandelson misled him, and then saying he hadn't spoken to him. I mean, for goodness sake, you can't have your cake and eat it. And Boris tried, and he got fired. And I think this one should too.
Just, I mean, I still have a lot of sympathy over Boris and the nonsense. Not least of all because the real enemy in Partygate were the civil servants. It was the civil
Yeah.
servants who brought a karaoke machine to their own party, not a party with Boris, their own party.
It,
They had a karaoke machine. It was the civil servants who got so drunk that they vomited up the wall at their own party, not Boris Johnson's party. But by goodness, if Boris Johnson is responsible for them, Keir Starmer is
yeah.
responsible for himself. And yeah, no, on misleading Parliament, I cannot see how he's got a leg to stand on in trying to sue us. I just don't think it's going to happen at all. Um, it's so obviously true. In fact, the misleading of Parliament has been repeated. The problem is that the Speaker doesn't seem to care, which is just a difficult problem to get around. Once you have a bent Speaker, there are
Well, I
problems.
mean, we it needs to go to the ethics committee, and they're just
But
sitting on their
Annunziata,
hands.
they're not.
But they won't get it through. They won't get it through with their Labour majority. Labour doesn't want to have a new leader because it's got no one else any better.
So
It has
she's
got
she's from your party, Annunziata, and she was your prime minister. She was mine when I was in your party. But the thing that I absolutely will 100% back Liz Truss on is that she sat there and said, I am the prime minister. And they said, you need to appoint an ethics advisor. And she just said, if I need to appoint an ethics advisor, I haven't got any. And that is just
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
It's like an
yeah.
admission. You haven't got it. I'm a complete moral and ethical vacuum. So I need Barry from down the pub and I'll give him a knighthood. What's if someone called Laurie something? He's got a knighthood.
Yeah.
He's gonna be your ethics, is he? All right, then he's gonna do your morals. What? You don't outsource morality. You just don't do it. So the one thing, because she gets flack, and and that's fine, and I leave all that out of it. But the one thing I will defend Liz Truss for to the hilt is to say I don't need an ethics advisor. I've got ethics.
Well, uh, Keir also tried to outsource corruption, and he appointed a corruption minister. That
Yes, he
went
did.
really well.
How did that turn out,
Um,
Annunziata? How did that go?
has anyone spoken to a Bangladeshi court recently?
You know they've convicted her twice now. Twice. They haven't got a leg to stand on not extraditing her. This
Well,
is
she did.
pathetic.
There wasn't a jury. Don't forget, there wasn't a jury,
And they
so it's
don't
not
want
fair.
juries for us.
It's just quite unbelievable. I do, at moments under this government, think that I must be hallucinating, that we've gone into such a 1984 world where, Big Brother says chocolate rations have gone up to a lower level than yesterday. And in fact, obviously, they've gone down. But we're having this all the time. We're being told it on the economy. For goodness sake, can you just stop trying to tell us that the economy is doing brilliantly when we read in the papers every single day and we talk to friends who've got small businesses about quite how bad it is? That I was horrified today to see that Butlins, which is a huge employer in my local town, Skegness, is laying off 7% of its staff. That's going to have a terrible impact
That is a
locally.
terrible impact.
One of my friends works there, and she will undoubtedly be terrified that her job is one of the ones on the line. And they're blaming it on increased costs, including national insurance, which is directly
Well, their
at
costs
this
are going up.
government's
So I'm
door.
not. I won't criticise Butlins for this. Their costs are going up.
They are
Labour have
hugely.
put everyone's costs up, and that's all that they do. In some ways, incredibly, crushing ways. I had to pay, and look, I'm very bitter about this, but I had to pay £14.35 for lunch today. Did I go to a restaurant or a pub? I mean, I wouldn't expect, but somewhere nice and decent. No, I got a pack of sushi and a pot of mango. That's what my
Yeah,
fourteen
no.
pounds 35 got me.
I went out with our children to the beach because we're in Lincolnshire and it was a beautiful day today.
I'd hope
And
you're
so,
affordable. I'd hope Lincolnshire is still vaguely
well,
affordable.
but when I've been told off, I didn't realise that a Mr. Whippy ice cream is only called a 99 if it had a flake. I don't actually like flakes, so I always have it without. Anyhow, I thought they were all called 99s. They are definitely not 99p anymore. In Chapel St Leonard's, a plain one, as I have it, is £2.70, and one with a flake is £3.20.
Yeah, that is just a joke.
When I first moved up here, they were genuinely 99p.
I mean, it's just a complete joke. We are living through an absolute cost of living crisis, and I don't know how people are coping. Um, I hope our listeners and viewers are getting by. The reason that we are both right wing is that we think that's a solution to this. We think that this is the greatest problem. Realistically, people being impoverished with endless bills they can't pay, endless tax, companies being strangled by bureaucracy and regulation and tax.
And
This
energy.
and energy. This is what we hate. This is and they tried to paint us for years. They tried to paint us. First, they said that we were mad when we said that we didn't care about CO2. But I mean, I'm perfectly happy. I assume you are by now. But just to say, I am not scared of CO2. I don't give two poots about it.
I'm perfectly happy to say I believe in climate change. The climate has changed for millions of years. Is it changing? Probably. Should we spend our money and focus on adapting to that change now that we have the science to be able to predict which way it's going? Absolutely. Should we be looking at flood defences in irrigation, in whatever you need in different areas to make sure that humans and animals and plants can survive the changes in temperature? Yes. Should we be punishing everyone by making energy too expensive to afford? No, that's completely the wrong way around.
Yeah, it's madness, and I'm maybe I'm a bit harder than you because I just believe we big blue rock fly round sun big ball of fire, which is my scientific position on climate change. And I don't mind. I mean, why do the penguins get to own Antarctica? I mean, I personally like them. My dad runs like a penguin. Me and my child have a lot of affection for penguins, but they don't get to own Antarctica forever. The Romans don't get to have their empire forever either, little Mr. Penguin. You know, all things to all man at all times. You know, I'm more
Well,
than happy to have change. Let's get the big lizards back. That's fine. It
but
would be great for tourism.
takes me back to this kind of permanent stress everyone is living under. That the economy is terrible. That if you're a driver, you're permanent, particularly in London, you're permanently thinking you've gone into a low traffic neighborhood or you've crossed over a line of, something. If you're filling in a tax reform, you feel tax form, you
You're
feel
coming over
that
gradually, Annunziata. You're coming gradually.
I do want tax reform. This is true. Not reforms, tax reforms. Um, but uh, the alarmism over climate has been shown to have stressed out particularly young people, and
Yeah.
it's something they can't change. And I think that is just horribly irresponsible. Putting stress on children over something they can do nothing about is just an absolute abrogation of responsibility
Yes, by adults. Yes, it is. It
by
really
adults.
is.
Yeah,
It's a form of abuse of the young.
yeah.
Um, it is an absolute disgrace. But I mean, the whole thing, as far as I can tell, the whole climate thing is just a money making scheme for wrong'uns.
Well, I'm really
Um,
looking forward to living on the beach because there's this amazing graph, chart thing that moves map where you can zoom right in to your own house and you can move the slider for where will the sea levels be in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. And by 2030, I am with just the other side of my garden. There will be waves lapping. Um, this has been true since 2020. It hasn't moved an inch yet. So I'm expecting to have to build Noah's Ark in about December 2029 so that these ridiculous forecasts actually come true.
it's just complete rubbish. But of course, now the lefties will say that Annunziata Rees-Mogg supports climate change so that she can have a beach in her garden. You wrong un. Why do you hate good things? You probably just don't like bunnies. I mean, this is the level of discourse is just so pathetic. But let's leave on a happy note because I did see, particularly on your Mr. Whippy tweet,
Yeah,
because I want to get into this. And again, we're not prepared, and neither of us have done any research. So, goodness knows why listeners and viewers tolerate us. But you're very kind in the fact that you do. You think the urban myth, is that Margaret Thatcher invented Mr. Whippy.
yeah.
I think the urban myth is that Margaret Thatcher invented soft scoop
Oh, is
home
it soft
screw.
script? I
Well, no,
think
no,
it.
I don't know where I'm right. Don't automatically defer to me just because I sound posh. You
I
sound posh too.
I believe that it comes from her working on a project to aerate ice cream.
She definitely did work on ice cream. She definitely worked in food as a chemist
Yeah.
for whatever they are. The big ones is probably still around now.
And whether it was Soft Scoop or Mr. Whippy, I couldn't swear to, but it turns out neither's true anyway,
Oh,
particularly.
oh,
Um,
oh.
that yes, she was part of a team, and yes, they were working on how to make ice cream more airy.
But the other thing I find odd about Margaret Thatcher is like there are so many myths about her generally. Like the Labour Party closed more coal mines than she ever closed.
Yeah.
The Labour Party closed more grammar schools than she closed. I can this one I can testify to absolutely hand on heart. I'm not lying. I was a child at primary school in 1986, and I got free milk.
Yeah, I carried on getting free milk.
So I just I
Um,
don't understand. I've
I've
literally
always
never understood
wondered
this
about
one.
that one.
Thatcher,
I
and
was
they came up with this thing, Thatcher Milk Snatcher,
milk
before
snatcher.
she was prime minister. They alleged that she took it away in the 70s. It's like, well, if you took it away in the 70s, what the hell was I drinking? You know what? I was definitely drinking. It used to come. I can't remember if it was cartons or little bottles, but there was definitely a
Oh,
straw. I
ours
like
was
the
little
straw.
cartons with the straw. Yeah.
I like the straw.
Um,
It's like the other things I remember from 1986 and that particular primary school, because we moved around a lot. So it actually makes it slightly easier to remember your childhood. I had one primary school, then another primary school, then another,
yeah.
then another. And all four of them mean that I can remember vaguely when it was. And that particular primary school, it was definitely 1986, we had lovely things like incubators where they came and we raised chicks, and then there were loads of
Yeah.
chicks running around. I
Do
don't know
you
if
know
they do
what?
that. They should do that
No,
now. I hope they
my
do.
little kids, my two primary school kids schools do school does do that. They raised chicks last year. My little boy was 5. He was so excited when
They
they started
are. They were
taking through
just so
their
cute.
well,
And
it
they're
was
running
lovely.
around and
They've got
soft and
a
fluffy.
little butterfly one this year. We've been sent home with sunflowers. Yeah, no, you see, you just got to move to Lincolnshire. That's the thing. It
That's
is a
the tip to
fantastic,
life. It's
well,
everybody is moved to Lincolnshire.
one of its great weirdnesses, but to me, most wonderful aspects is it is a little bit set in the past. And everyone's live and let live, but we've still got traditions and we're still a bit old school. And it just works so well.
Well, I'm
Good for
happy to tell
society.
you that down in modern Buckinghamshire last year, and I'm sure it will be this year as well, the maypole was danced by the children in the town square.
Fabulous. Did you burn guys on your bonfire on the 5th of November?
No, that's getting a bit carried away. That's a bit, but
Oh,
you
no,
see that as a
no, no.
bit political.
My kids'
Hang on a
school
second,
had
isn't
an
that you lot? Isn't that to remember burning
yeah,
you lot?
yeah, that's to remember banning Catholics. So as a Catholic, obviously, I really support this. And my little boy won the guy making competition that his school organised. It's absolutely great. We
Okay, you
need
need to take this
traditions,
up with
even if
your
they're once.
therapist, Annunziata. This is just.
There are inevitably some traditions that some people won't like,
Well, no, I
but
think we do
they,
have to accept that, and I think grown-ups in particular have
yeah,
to just accept that some things are just weird, as well as you don't like them. Some things are just odd. Why do we do stuff? Well, because we do. It's a perfectly justifiable answer. Not everything has to be rational. Not everything has to be grounded, particularly in law. You know that the most annoying tweet I receive, and I receive it multiple times every day, is somebody tagging me in going, is this lawful? As though the judges are in charge, as though they've got the slightest clue what they're doing. I mean, I long for the old days when they were just doddery old men. Now we have ladies of a certain age as well, many of whom, I just want to be very clear, I mean, my best living judge is a woman. So
well, as
I
long as it's not them, I've totally forgotten her name, but the famous spider brooch lady.
no, and it will
Um,
please you to know, Annunziata, that I told her off to her face in the
oh,
bar.
well done.
I told her and she was wrong, and she was a bit grumpy afterwards. But I told her off to her face, and she was wrong, and that case has, I think, as law, gone away. So it's not binding. It's not what we call precedent. But that was way too far. And no, it's definitely not her. It's outrageously a lady who didn't make it to the Supreme Court, who should have done. I mean, it's just a disgrace that the Supreme Court didn't have somebody of this caliber. But you get this with the top court sometimes. It like there are for us in law land, proper lawyers will always talk about Lord Keith of Kinkell. So Lord Keith of Kinkell was the law lord that we all think is so stupid we can't really believe he was allowed to sort of speak. But yet somehow he rose to the highest court in the land. And I mean, and there are law lords who are dimmer than other law lords, but for most people, the apex is Lord Keith of Kinkell. And he, he was some years ago, but he really was particularly dim. And even Spider Lady is, I don't think she's a very good lawyer, but she's not Lord Keith of Kinkel bad. That's like a whole level of other bad. But no, the lady I'm talking about, I won't name because she's still alive. If she when she passes, I will tell everybody the deep intellectual respect I had for her. But the problem with living judges is they get a bit. Don't want to make them angsty. They the best ones want to not be known, and
Yeah,
that's
but
sort of what makes them the best ones.
isn't that probably an example of one of the problems with the Supreme Court, that it's become so politicized without being overtly political?
Yes, and I
That we're
really don't.
caught
Well, it
in
is
the
political.
worst of both worlds, that really good people don't get there because they don't tick certain boxes that are political in orientation. Um, and yet, pretty second-rate people can get there because they tick other boxes that are seen to be the right thing. And those are political decisions, and yet we theoretically have a totally unpolitical judiciary. um, it isn't.
No, it's
And
not.
I
It's
think that's
not. And
one of our real troubles.
I'm not willing to lie anymore. And the judges have been corrupted by politics, and we need to save the judges from it. We also need to save them from ego. Probably the most famous judge, certainly when you and I were a little bit younger, was Lord Denning. And
Yep.
Lord Denning would turn up to the state opening of Parliament, being he couldn't drive either, so lots of cool men can't drive Annunziata, but he
My
was
dad
driven.
couldn't
He,
drive.
good, cool. He was driven in his Morris Minor by his wife, and she would drive into Parliament, drop him off, and he would get out, put on his robes of state, and they would do the state opening of Parliament. And that is Lord Denning. And I mean, I'm not going to say he didn't have an ego and wasn't because not least of all, the world will never want for portraits of the man. Nobody has sat for more portraits than I'm aware of. But you know, they didn't. They had a humility to them. They had a sense of being part of a greater system. When they were the law lords, they had hearings in committee rooms in Parliament, which people can Google and find loads of meetings in committee rooms, either in Portcullis House is quite common now. Those are the ones with the awful paintings, or in the House of Lords. They have committee rooms, and in the House of Commons side of Parliament. But the law lords actually worked on the top corridor in the House of Lords. So we're talking pitched roofs.
Yeah, yeah, that. Oh God, those offices, and they leak.
They leak, and they had one secretary between three, and that just is that's a really important constitutional method, because I don't know if I can explain this properly. I'm going to try without being horrendously patronizing, but first of all, these are old men. Okay, they can't type. Old
Yeah.
men holding a pen. I'm a middle-aged man, and I find it difficult writing. Okay, an old man, yeah, he's not going to write a lot. So and that's good for law. That's the fewer words we have, the
Keep
better.
it short. Yeah.
Yeah, keep it short. Great constitutional mechanism. He's old and he's got to write it by hand. Then he's got to give it to the secretary. I'm going to call her Mary, just because I imagine that there would have been one Mary and she would have been lovely. And she's going to go, oh, look at how much you've written. I've got to do this and I've got to do this. I can't do all this. How? When do you want this in time for? And that, and the fact that he's going to get that is also going to make him write less. And the first time he does it, and he gets an earful from Mary, who, constitutionally, he's not going to do anything to her. He's not going to tell her off. She's, you just don't. That is not how institutions work. That's just not how they work.
Don't fall out with your secretary.
Exactly.
Never.
You'd be insane. He can't sack her. So it's like he's got no choice but to go, oh, I'm terribly sorry, Mary. Next time I'll try and write less. Is that it? I'll do my best. And then the next time he comes, he goes, I tried my best this time. And you'll see it's a lot less than that. And it's just these are constitutional mechanisms, because we're only humans. And part of being human is to regulate being human. But I'm getting all hypothetical and intellectual. We are looking forward. I think we is it too early to say that we think this podcast is actually working? I mean, it's not technically a podcast because neither of us knows how to get it onto audio only. But
No.
but
Yes.
I've got the weekend. I'm going to spend this weekend, and I'm going to try and get us an account on one of the thingies of the doodahs.
Ooh, a thingy of a doodah.
So that
A
we can
hoot and a
publish.
flip.
we we can publish, and then we can go live on the YouTube, as we do normally tomorrow, isn't it? Normally tomorrow, or
Normally tomorrow.
normally tomorrow, Thursday, and then maybe we'll do the audio doodah. Well, we're not going to do it earlier than Saturday because I'm not going to work out how to do it before then. But
Mm.
if and let's quote Richard III and Shakespeare then, talk you to me of if I manage to do that, we will have a podcast, because we've called this a podcast without
We
ever
have.
it's never actually been a
Oh,
podcast.
semantics. We talk a lot of podcasty type
We
stuff.
laugh in the face
Yeah.
of knowing what things are. Anyway, I very much hope you've enjoyed this episode. Annunziata is going to sign off as we promised last time.
Too right.
Oh, did I do, what is it? Too right? Oh, damn right. That's it.
If you know the name of the podcast, if it's a podcast.
Sometimes. Anyway, we hope everybody's had a lovely time, and we will see you next week.